far. So if I missed any other committee members, please let me know.
This is Carol.
Bobrowski.
This is Carol Braun.
Hey,
I'm
Ronnie.
on.
Okay, thank you. And I heard somebody else say they were on. Did I miss it?
It's Ronnie Coleman, but I'm not one of your committee members.
Oh, okay. If you'd like, Dr. Bobrowski, we can give it a minute longer to make sure we've got the waiting room cleared, and then I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, that'll be fine. While we're waiting, how's your little one?
He's doing really well. Thank you for asking.
Good deal. Yeah, I talked to Joe and Phil earlier this morning, so I know they know about the meeting. I know Phil was very busy today, and Joe still might be trying to finish up work. I don't know, so.
Looks like we still have some people trickling in from the waiting room.
Okay, we'll wait.
Garth, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, John, I hear you.
I'm not hearing you. I need to figure out what's wrong here.
Maybe I need to scoot closer to my microphone. Is that any better?
Dr. Bobrowski, the waiting room is cleared, and I believe I counted you, John, Joe, and Carol. So that's 4. That gives you a quorum. So if you want to go ahead and start,
All right.
I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you so much. Let me check one more thing here.
While you're doing that, I do want to say we have been giving all the tax-friendly reminder. All voting members must have their camera on while voting. And also to the court reporters having a hard time sometimes hearing people if they're not muted when they're not speaking with background noise and people talking over top of each other. So we're just trying to encourage everybody to use the hands up button if you have questions, and if you're not speaking, to try to stay muted to alleviate background noise. Thank you.
Thank you. I just got a notice that Phil is trying to get into the waiting room, but it for some reason won't let him in.
Okay, I just hit admit all, so hopefully it should let him in. We had a couple people hanging out there, so.
Okay. I'm just kind of looking here to see if he got on.
I don't see his name, but he could be logged in under a different name or a phone number possibly.
Let me see if I can text him.
Nope, there he is.
Okay.
Here I am.
All right. Glad to have you, Phil.
I had to get in through the CHFS website. I couldn't
Okay.
the invite was redirecting me somewhere. So anyway, I'm here.
Well, I want to welcome everyone. We do have a quorum for our TAC meeting today. But to start off with, I wanted to just acknowledge Mr. Rick Whitehouse, who is the KDA Executive Director, for his years of service and on many of these TAC meetings. He's been quietly on the sidelines listening or checking in on us, but I wanted to thank him for his years of service to dentistry. And we have a interim executive director, Dr. Stephen Robertson. Bowling Green would be the interim director, so he was going to try to get on here today also. So we want to welcome Dr. Robertson. And all of the, in terms of the roll call, all of the TAC members have called in, signed in, and so we do have a quorum. And at this time, I'd like to have a motion to approve the minutes of the last two meetings of January 13, 2023 and February 10, 2023. So I'd like to entertain a motion.
John Gray, so moved.
Second.
I'll second it.
All right. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Those have been approved. And then
Carol,
we
I apologize, but your camera was not on. Oh, there you are.
There I am.
Do you mind to second that again and vote? I apologize.
who's that's it.
I
Phil?
seconded it. Can you not see me?
I can't, Carol's video was not showing when everyone said aye. So I apologize if you could just do that one more time so we can make sure we're in open record. We're good with the laws.
Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 All
Thank you,
right.
guys.
Thank you. From our last meeting, we made the announcements of that the election is in old business of the TAC chair and the vice chair. Currently, I'm the chair of the TAC and vice chair is Dr. Phil Schuler. And we would like to enter, today we'll do our vote for those positions, and I'll entertain a motion for those election of those positions.
Garth, I'll make a motion to nominate you for chairman of the dental TAC for the next year.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? And we need to vote for, I can make the motion for nominating Dr. Phil Schuler for co-chair or vice chair of the TAC.
Which is it, Garth? Before we do that, is it-
Actually, I think it's a vice chair. So we need a motion to, or I made the motion, we need a second.
Second to Vice Chair
I'll
Phil
second
Schuler.
that.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The next item, and we've talked about some reports that the TAC would like to have. And going back through our minutes with some of our TAC members too, is this like, and one of those I know may be my fault because I believe I was supposed to send a updated wording to Miss Kelly, and I dropped the ball on that one. So I apologize. I think I was supposed to do that, but I kind of then I got to thinking, about 2 o'clock one morning. I said, well, now Kelly's got those in the minutes, but I'm not blaming you, Miss Kelly, but I think I was supposed to get back with a better worded deal for you there. But we have some reports that we would like to discuss and look at, and then try to make a final decision on it either today or by the next meeting, so we can get the proper wording. And I know we may need some of your help on in terms of the state or the MCO. Sometimes we might ask for a format, but you may have an idea on a better format that's easier to compile and easier to read. So we're open to suggestions on the format of these reports. One of them was to either use a geo maps coordinating with claims that, claims paid that were broken down by the number of providers, either by a region or by county, doing $1 to 1,000 a quarter, 1,001 to 3,000 per quarter, 3,001 to 5,000 per quarter, 5,001 to 10,000 per quarter, and 10,001 on up in terms of reimbursement through claims paid per quarter. That was one of the ones that we had talked about. Now, in addition to that, we talked about breaking that down a little further into general practitioners, and then by specialty providers of who's actually doing the work out here to serve the citizens of Kentucky. And that would include oral surgeons, pediatric dentists, orthodontists, oral facial pain, perio and prosthetics, endo, dental public health. But those are some of the ones that we had talked about, was having to do with just who's doing the work out there, looking for shortage areas, trying to get providers back into the network. Is there any discussion so far from any of the TAC members? Okay, is there any?
Well,
Go ahead.
Let me just say, I mean, the reason that we're asking for this data is to assess the strength or lack thereof of the provider network in the state. And like you said, Garth, look for areas where we have lack of coverage, insufficient coverage. And I mean, I think it's important for us to know that.
I agree. I got next.
Phil, why would it be important for us to know that?
Well, I think when, as a technical advisory committee, I mean, I think it's imperative to know the strength of the network of providers, or lack thereof, that we have in the state to take care of, like Garth said, take care of the citizens. If we have areas where there's gaps, shortages, we know there's areas where patients are waiting an extreme length of time for any appointment. Oral surgery is in particular a real pain point for patients, but really just any appointment for any provider. I know that, the organization I'm part of, we have a lot of offices, and even in some of our GP offices, I mean, they're putting patients out until December, January, let alone oral surgery. So, I mean, we're in basically Louisville Metro, which has got a pretty high concept. 40% of the state lives here. I can't imagine what that coverage is, out in the more rural parts of the state. we talk about it all the time, but we don't have any data to support a concern. Maybe there's no concern. Maybe we look at this and we go, well, maybe we were wrong. There is a, adequate supply of providers, and maybe we need more. But, we hear it all the time. The patients are waiting an extreme length of time. That lands them into the emergency departments. It impacts their general health. There's a lot of negative consequences if indeed we have a less than adequate provider network, which we all feel we do have an inadequate network, but we don't have any real data to base that on other than kind of anecdotal, what we've heard, what a friend told us, what patients tell us about appointment times. So to have that data would be most helpful. And if in fact there are areas of shortage or extreme shortage, we could possibly look at some ways to either attract providers into those areas or talk to existing providers. But first we need to kind of see what the existing network looks like and go from there. We're really just making decisions in the dark. Does that answer your question, John?
Yeah, yes. Thank you very much. That clarifies it a lot.
John, there's one other point that by having this data, another area in terms of recruitment would be that this is data that not only we can look at, but the schools may be able to look at that data and look at these shortage areas in terms of recruiting students, from these areas to hopefully go back. And last night I was talking with a young lady that has just got accepted into the pediatric program there at UK, and had a lengthy talk with her, and happy to report that there was several people in her class, that several were even from Eastern Kentucky, and they were, of course, graduating. Last Friday was graduation, or Saturday there, and several were headed back to Eastern Kentucky. She's a local girl from my town here, and she's going to be going into pediatrics. So it was interesting to hear that several were going back into Eastern Kentucky. We hope that they will become KDA members and Medicaid members. So I think just that data there might help in recruitment process from the schools if as needed. But I think it's just data we can use.
Thank you, Garth.
Yes. Is there any on the MCOs or from the state, Aaron, or would there any be? I can't talk, my mouth's so dry. Do you all have any ideas on maybe the best mechanism to show that data? I know we had talked about geo maps, but we also talked about a graph or just a chart for different categories of those paid claims categories.
If you want to send me that data request, I was trying to make notes, but I want to make sure I get it worded properly. I can get with staff and we can work on that, and I'll let them know you'd like the easiest readable format, if that works.
Okay. I'll do that again, and I'll put some help on the TAC members to make sure I get reminded to do that. I'll try to get it to you by Monday morning. If I put some urgency to it, I'll get this done. All right. Another piece of data that we've been looking at was to do an overlay of the total number of Medicaid members, either per county or per region. There's like how many Medicaid patients are there, either by county. I know it seemed like we had that information a few years ago, but I think COVID and everything else has thrown us for a loop on some of our data.
think what we're looking to do there, Garth, is to get a total number of patients in either region or county, so we have a better understanding of how many patients are in need or part of the program. And then in addition to that, the first that you talked about as far as members, and so we can not only, providers, so that we can marry those two together and get a better understanding of the need.
Okay. Aaron, I'll send you that one also.
Okay, and on that one, I actually get weekly reports, and I believe I get one that the members are broken down by the county.
Okay.
So I can send that over to you to look at to see if that's the data you're looking for and you'd like to see.
All right. That I'll make a note here. Now, a few years ago, you all did send one out with it didn't have any names on it, but just had the number of Medicaid providers per county or per region. I think at the time it was almost per county. Do you have that information too, Aaron?
Did you say providers?
Yes.
No, sir, I don't get weekly reports on that, but I'm sure that's something that we can pull.
Okay. Well, and this is another thing we're trying to figure out is like, well, is this data that you can pull, or do we need to go, request this data through the MAC? But if you all can do these types of things, then we won't even have to bring it up at the MAC meeting.
Yes, sir. Those can just be asks of the TAC. And then the department can, like I said, if you don't mind, just send them to me in writing. So I make sure to get the ask completely right. I am taking notes, but I want to make sure I get everything as you guys want to see it. But you can make that just an ask of the TAC, and we're happy to fulfill that to the best of our ability. And if there's something that you want to see and we don't house that data or don't have it, that's something we can just let you know, or if it's data we need to request from the MCOs, we can do that as well.
Okay. That sounds great.
Yeah, that's wonderful, because sorry, Garth, we were also hoping to have that broken down when looking at the members also by MCO, but I know that's I don't know if that's something to get through you all or through the MCOs themselves.
You can always send that to the department, and then the department can always make that ask of the MCOs if that's data we need from them.
Okay. And then we'll include with that the state's traditional fee-for-service program also, so that data comes from the fee-for-service part, and then also from the MCO's territories. So that's good there. Got that. We had an idea too on claims, get a breakdown of claim denials on procedures that require prior authorizations. And looking at that, would it be any help to us on figuring out why claims are getting denied? Is it one reason? I'm sure it would be that, I had got one in the mail this morning. I got one denied this morning. That's fine. My office manager forgot to also send a narrative, and that's on me, and so, but is there other reasons that could be red flags as to why these claims are getting denied? Any other TAC members got any ideas on that? Or
sorry to keep being the one to keep jumping in here, but I know we discussed the looking at reasons for denial as well, and I know at our 2 meetings ago when we talked about reports, Dr. Cottle spoke up about something near and dear to my heart, orthodontics. We're required to get a denial before we even offer a fee to patients that for them to be able to pay for their own care. So we submit cases intending denial, knowing they will not be approved. So that obviously is something that would be in there. And if we searched for reasons for denial, we could. One of those can certainly be no criteria met. But my only concern with looking for reasons for denial now is not knowing the GP denial side. Is there a limited number of reasons for denial that would make that the logistics of that feasible, or are they so arduous and so many that it would that just simply it would be too much to kind of whittle down into something that could be interpreted? I initially felt that we just look at percentages of denials of procedures requiring prior authorization. Clearly, it would be better if we understood why, but I think I'd like to hear maybe from someone from the MCOs that can tell us whether that is would be feasible to have an understanding of the reason for denial.
Would
Hello,
somebody
this
look up?
is Nicole.
Go ahead,
Sure, this
Nicole.
is Nicole with Avisus. I think you have a great idea for a newsletter article. We can definitely share the top 10 denial reasons for prior authorization request, the top 10 denial reasons for claim denials, and then include some information in regards to how to prevent those denials in the future. So if there are denials for orthodontics because there wasn't documentation, that was submitted, or if there's a denial for eligibility, maybe the eligibility was not verified on the claim side before the claim authorization, before the claim was submitted into Avisus. So let us take that back in, and we can prepare some news articles for our next newsletters, and then of course share that information with the committee.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Nicole. It's, we'll see if the other MCOs would like to gather that data for us. That'd be a good idea. Just the top 10 reasons for prior authorizations denials or even claim denials. So let's go that route. Even maybe for the last I don't know, maybe for the last year. If just see what you come up with there on those. Are there any other reports that we would like to add in to our list there? Any TAC members got any other reports you want to look at? Hearing none, we'll move on with that. Is there any other old business that we need to bring up?
Sorry, Garth, I was slow on unmuting. We discussed, let me run through, there were 5 that we had discussed. Update on the total number of members per MCO within the state's traditional program. We discussed that. Geo mapping showing an overlay of the total Medicaid members per county and the total numbers of Medicaid providers per county. We discussed that. A report from the MCOs and the state on what the total dental expenditure is by MCO and the state, excluding member incentives. That was one from 2 meetings ago that was discussed. The breakdown of the reimbursement as you discussed, and then a breakdown of claims on procedures requiring prior authorization. We have this in a digital format that we can certainly share and send to the appropriate folks on that. So those would be the 5 that I have.
Yeah, sorry, I missed out. I missed that total dental expenditure. I had too many notes around all of it. Thank you, Dr. Joe. All right. Is
In the
there any
chat,
other-
DentaQuest, so they can also work on those denial reasons.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe we have a raised hand too, Garth, that we might want to address.
Yeah. Yeah, I just saw that one from DentaQuest there.
Yeah, that was me raising my hand earlier, but I just put it in the chat that we can provide that report as well.
Sometimes I apologize if I saw the chat. It shows up on my device here a little bit better. But if I miss something, just somebody help me out, notify me there, please. All right, let's go into new business. One of my questions is that why was Kentucky Law 304.17A-235 not followed with the expansion population, new codes, or several updated fee schedules? I've gotten probably more calls about that, of like with all the changes that have been going on the last few months or so, and just dentists feel like there's just a lack of communication between the state and the MCOs as to what's going on. I've got a few more calls earlier this week on well, are we good to go with the expansion use of the expansion codes or what? But Miss Aaron or somebody from the state has got any answers on that, or if you let me know, or they say, well, why we didn't get any orange envelopes on any of these changes, and maybe the orange envelope was not the appropriate mechanism, but a lot of dentists are just wanting to know, well, what's going on? Can we do our work or not? And I know there's been some legislative battles going on, and
I am flipping through to see who's on.
Hi, this is Justin Derringer. I was looking to see who was on as well. I will take a stab at this, and if nobody else is on, I'm the acting director for the Division of Healthcare Policy for the Department for Medicaid Services. I think your first question is, as you all know, this has been a process that we've tried to involve many groups of stakeholders in, and at the same time try to meet that fee schedule of filing time that we used to try to get fee schedules out, somewhere around in between the January to March months. And so we were trying to meet that timeline, the same time trying to file administrative regulations for these expansion services, in addition to being able to include as many stakeholders as possible. And so feel like we got a lot of good feedback. We put that into use, and then we're able to file some administrative regulations. Those administrative regulations had some issues, as you all know, as far as legislatively. I think a lot of that's politics and things like that. And for a time, I thought we were going to have to put a date in and revert back to the 2022 fee schedule for several years, and it would just be that and stay that way. Thank goodness we were able to make a few changes and refile those administrative regulations so that no time had lapsed in between there, and we can keep the fee schedule with some tweaks on it that was instituted from the beginning. So I think we shared communication with the MCOs. Of course, a lot of that has been up and down because of the amount of changes that have went on in the fee schedule itself and with the regulations. So there's been a lot of changes. There's been a lot of, in my opinion, improvements that have been made. And so we have done those things and tried to communicate as quickly as possible with all the MCOs and then had them communicate with their providers the changes that were occurring. A lot of times those were occurring extremely fast paced and quickly. But we've told everyone from the entire time. I'm pretty sure we've told the TAC a couple times. I have to look back and see at the some of the minutes, but we've kept for sure all the MCOs informed the entire time that January 1st was the start date for that fee schedule. Everything is paid off of that fee schedule starting on January 1st. So that still hasn't changed. And I know if you right now, if you bill for fee for service, those things are kind of having to be still retro paid. I think most MCOs are currently paying, but everything will be paid based on that new fee schedule all the way back to January 1st. So I'm not sure. Maybe you could clarify that part of your question just a little bit more. I was uncertain on it. The other thing was I see on there that we had or that there was a question about the statute. Why wasn't that statute? It was KRS 304 17A 235. So a 90-day notice. That 90-day notice is only in case of a decrease in payment or compensation to providers. So if you look at that statute, you can see that that there was no decrease in payment or compensation to any provider. All the changes to the administrative procedures were just how to bill for the services. There wasn't any providers included in any of the modified insurance products. So that statute doesn't meet anything we did. Matter of fact, we made several increases in payments on several of dental codes, as well as to different other providers as well. So I'm not sure why that statute would have, again, that statute doesn't apply.
Okay.
So that's kind of, I think what I have on that topic. Is there any other questions or expansion of that issue that?
I got a question, Justin. I know the legislature classified those regulations as deficient. The governor vetoed it, then the legislatures outvoted his veto, but then he came back and vetoed that. So the way I understand it, and I'm not much of a politician, but the way I understand it, since the legislators are out right now, these fees and should be good for up until January 1st of 2024. It looks like things should stable or get more stable. Am I correct on that?
Well, so they're paid through the administrative regulations that we filed. And so those administrative regulations, you're right, went through that entire process. However, we refiled new administrative regulations, which are currently in effect. They don't really make any significant change for dental providers, make no real change on the fee schedules. So as of right now, those regulations are still in effect and effective. There could always be legislative action that could, make changes at some point throughout the year. But as of right now, the fee schedule has been in place since January 1st. Is still good, and what's on the website still in place until something happens legislatively that nullifies that, and that's a possibility.
Yes.
There's always things that can happen. So if that is the case, if at some point we have to do that because of a legislative action, then we will notify all providers, MCOs, to cease on a certain date, cease providing those services on a certain date. Everything will still be paid from January 1st of that date. But then on that date, we'll revert back to the 2022 fee schedule, and that fee schedule will remain in place until I think until they specify. I think the last time the legislature had specified 4 years for 4 years that 2022 fee schedule would be in place. There would be no additions, no increase in fees. We would go back to all the increase in fees that we've included in 2023 fee schedule would revert back to the 2022 fee schedule and would remain that way until whatever specified time. So that's, but I haven't heard anything as far as anything new that the legislature has planned or is doing. So as of right now, we're still good with our current fee schedule and current administrative regulations.
Okay. And Justin, want to thank you for your hard work on, getting the new codes and some fee increases. And I know that's helped the oral surgeons or any dentist that does oral surgery. That's been a big plus to, being able to help maintain our providers and our network in there. But I did have a copy of that 304-17A 235 and I don't understand all the legal terminology, but it just looked like there was some wiggle room in some of that stuff. And we had a lot of dentists calling and just said, well, where's the orange envelopes? Where's, just wanting information on what to do and how to do it. So again, we thank you and appreciate your work on that.
Absolutely. We appreciate your all's work. A lot of the changes that we've discussed with you all, with other organizations, with other dentists throughout the state of Kentucky, have led to a lot of the different changes that we've made on this expansion services. And, I think it's important to remember that this administrative regulation, and in particular, this 2023 fee schedule, not only expands some services, not a lot, but a little bit, but it also gives rate increases, significant rate increases for a lot of different codes. If you look back through there and do a compare and contrast, we've increased a lot of codes in that fee schedule, and so that's always a positive whenever we can increase rates. I talked to a provider the other day that was talking about all the different issues that they were going through right now. And, one of our things that we want to do is make sure that you all, as providers, are successful so we can increase access. Our members are like, we talked about earlier in this meeting, the wait times. That's something that we're constantly working on. And if you all ever see a code, we want to encourage, this is not part of a regulation. This is not part of a fee schedule upgrade or change, but we encourage any provider that sees a code on our fee schedule and feels like they cannot provide that service because that code does not pay enough to provide that service. We get 10 to 20 requests per day from all different provider types, asking to research different codes. And so we research those codes. We look at the pricing from other states, from Medicare, and we make sure that we're in line with all those different pricing markers and with inflation in our own state as well. So anytime that you all find a code like that, please feel free to let us know as well.
Well, thank you again. And just, and I know you have to sometimes, look at what other states are doing, but when you look at them, just a tongue-in-cheek comment would be to just look at, when you're looking at other states, look and see when was the last time they had a fee update, just to make sure that you're not looking at fees that were, 10 years old. I'll give you just an example. Just here about a week and a half ago, I saw an ad for a hygienist. They were going to be paid anywhere between $45 and $60 an hour. Now, most folks that do Medicaid can't handle that, for an adult cleaning. And, we were getting $38 less 10%. Right now we're getting $46.25 for an adult, but it's just our costs, our supply of staff are just eating us up, and that's where it makes it hard to continue doing some of these services, and the dental offices are doing procedures at a loss, for the Medicaid population. And and I know it helped so much that you all increased the oral surgery fees. But there's a couple of things I had a note down, and I talked to the commissioner the other day, and I sent up a list of just some typos and some questions that I saw. And the other night I noticed that on the website, the fee structure was updated on April the 13th of this year. And then it was just updated again on May the 5th. But I was still seeing quite a few typos in there that I guess I don't want to take the time to go over each one of those right now. And I think when I was talking to the commissioner, she said to just, send those to you and to her and for evaluation. Some of those, I just had a question about it. May have not been a typo, but may have just been a question. I know the MCOs, here's one thing, the MCOs have like on that DO 180 code, that's a periodontal exam. On our sheets through fee for service, there's no descriptor on how and when that code can be used. It is on some of the MCOs site, but I'll just use myself for example. I deal with two groups of traumatic brain injury patients, and it's all through the fee for service part of the program. And a lot of these folks have, severe dental trauma or missing a lot of teeth, or some of the teeth that they do have because of their status have not been able to take well care of their teeth, oral health in together. So, and I'll tie this in with a thing on just like breaking fillings. I noticed, and I've got that in here as a question coming up. It's like on the MCO part of it and on the fee for service website, it's got then this is a new change, even I think for 2022, and then again for this year, is that it was added in about if a patient breaks a tooth or filling, if that tooth or filling was placed within 6 months, well, the dentist, I guess, was to refill it at no charge. Well, that has gone up to 12 months now. And a lot of us, even with our regular patients who are MCO patients, a lot of these adults have had fillings on top of fillings on their front teeth and all over. Some of them are severe bruxers, clenchers, grinders, and biting their fingernails, biting, peppermint candies and whatever, and they break that same filling that you just put in 7 months ago. So we've got the 12-month rule that was changed from 6 months. Does that become then a non-covered service, and the Medicaid patient would have to pay the full fee to fix it, or would they just have to wait until the program says it'll pay again? Justin, I'll direct that to you, I guess.
So if you'll put together a list of all the different questions that you have, and about each code and you can include all those typos as well.
Okay,
Send them to me. Let me look at them. I'm not off the top of my head. I'd have to kind of go look and see
right.
when that change was made, why it was made. And so to give you a correct answer on that one.
Okay.
But I can do that with each of those, questions that you might have. We can look into that, give you an exact answer of why it was changed and, you know, what's going on and we can have an open discussion on,
Okay.
whether we need to change it back.
Okay.
You know, if it's not something
Justin?
if it's not something that's set in, you know, a lot of times we'll get things change on the fee schedule because CMS will send us issue requirements saying this has to change. If we get something like that, we're set. You know, we can't fix it. Sometimes we change things because a new statute will come out and specify something, and we have to make a change because of that, or have limitation change because of that. And then other times we will make a change based on some type of research or something like that, and we make a policy change. But those type things, those changes due to research or other directives, are always open for you all to always shoot us an email and say, hey, you know, you all made this change and we're having trouble with it. Can we talk about it? And we can always look at those. So yeah, absolutely. Send me those and I'll get your response to each one of those.
Okay.
Justin, John Gray, I'd like to thank you also for your good work. And I have a couple of suggestions that may be helpful. As you mentioned, you get 15 or 20 responses a day from people. And perhaps if you would direct the dental questions to the Dental Advisory Committee, and perhaps we could get a way to sort those out and put things together in a reasonable method. I even had a hard time following all of what Garth had to go through today because I'm not in general dentistry. And perhaps we could formulate a concise thing so that when you make decisions, you don't have to go but one place, and that's the advisory committee, which is what we're tasked with doing. And we could give you up-to-date information. I'm not sure what was our involvement in all these changes, Justin. I'm not sure exactly how all that came about because I didn't see anything from us.
Right. So I think we had and our communication was pretty late in the process. You know, you have to remember, anytime we make a change such as this, a massive change, it goes through a thousand different layers and levels. So we had information from multiple sources, multiple stakeholders that had input on draft regulation and fee schedule. And then I think we sent that to you all right before it became effective, I believe. Right before we put it out there, not before we retro affected it, but right before it kind of went public. And so then we made a lot of changes though, based on a lot of the recommendations from that collaboration. I don't know the exact date.
As a TAC member, I would like to be a resource that you can go to, and not me personally, but the committee, that you can go to and say, hey, get this together. You got 5 days to the TAC committee, and let us help and be helpful in doing what we were tasked to do. And I think you get a lot of information from all the 20 people that are calling you a day, and you get a lot, but we get that too. And we're probably in the best position to put that together. And if we get these other studies on who's providing care, what location, who needs the care, hopefully we could interact on, I think, a more efficient level. And that would be my comment. And I appreciate everything you all have done. We just want to decrease your workload and increase the efficiency. At least that's my perspective.
Sure, we can get together and work out a way where we can figure some things out, you know, work together on some issues.
So we appreciate that collaboration, Justin, and just you know, we want to work with you all and the MCOs to figure this out. And I know the commissioner mentioned it a few times other meetings that Kentucky's ranked 49th in the nation on oral health care. And, we've got to put our heads together and move us up that ladder. And what I mentioned this to the commissioner a few weeks ago, it's like, what I'm afraid of is once we lose our providers, and I think it was John, I think said it there a while ago, boys, once you've lost them, man, it's hard to get them back. So we've got to really work on that aspect of maintaining our provider network. And it's like Dr. Schuler said there a while ago, we've got to see where we need to, even as dentists, see what we can do to help, maintain doctors in the network and not having them dropping out. But going back, one more thing on codes, I know the commissioner had mentioned to us before of, looking at, certain codes and asking for increases on those. And I know the Panorex code, it was upped, for oral surgeons, but then I think it was also changed that it was for all providers. But and I got a notice even this morning that I'm getting reimbursed all over the place for Panorexes. It's a DO 330 code, anywhere from $35.10 up to, and on your updated site, it says $56.69. And then on another place on the site, it says $73.70. So, I mean, it's the same procedure, but I'm getting 3 or 4 reimbursements on it. I think we just need to look at stuff like that. But so I'd like for us to look at fee increases for that, or look at that situation with the Panorexes, the adult Profis, and the other ones are the codes for the composites. These are things that dentists do day in and day out to prevent having to do root canals, helping to hopefully prevent crowns. If we catch it early enough, we can fill it, not have to do those more expensive procedures on the tooth, and like a $400, $500, $600 root canal, plus a core buildup, plus a crown. So sometimes it seems to be cheaper in the long run if we can get people in and do some diet counseling and get them off these soft drinks. But those are the codes I'd like to look at, is the Panorex, the adult Profi, and the composite codes for the anterior and posterior regions. I think that's about 10 codes there. But, for example, we'll have a young person come in, and we've been getting paid the child rate on a Profi. They turn 21 and the fee automatically goes down to $46.25. As an adult, a lot of people tend to get more tartar. They've got all their adult teeth in, and I know the adults, they're categorized at age 14 now. And but there's a pay difference when they turn 21. And I really think we need to get that code up. We're having a hard enough time keeping and maintaining and being able to afford the hygienists that are in our territories, but a lot of offices are having staffing problems, and it can be from anywhere, from front office staff to the hygienists. And I know the primary care TAC at our MAC meetings, the last, I believe, 3 meetings, they've mentioned even finding dentists, that will see the Medicaid population. So we've just got to be wary of, helping dentists maintain their staff. Is there any other discussion from TAC members on any of the codes or any of that line? All right.
Well, Garth, I'd like to, kind of follow up on what you were saying. The compensation for all of our team members, and especially hygienists, has just went through the roof the past couple of years. And when you're looking at getting, you know, $40, $50 for a you know, hour procedure for a hygienist, and the hygienist is paid more than that fee, it doesn't take a, you know, mental heavyweight to figure out you're losing money on every one that you do. So Justin, when you talked about fees where we're not able to provide the service due to the economics, I mean, the prophy fees are certainly one, and it doesn't make any sense to pay less for an adult, you know, than you do for a child. You can do a child prophy in, you know, 15, 20 minutes. An adult, some of them take, you know, a full hour. And the hygiene reimbursement rates, compensation is just killing us. You know, I can tell you a lot of our offices with Medicaid, and a lot of it is due to fees like the prophy fee. You know, we used to have extremely good profitability out of the offices where we saw a very high percentage of Medicaid. And that profitability at this point is just about gone due to mostly the increases in compensation. So, and that's not going away. You know, we're not going to go back to, you know, 2019 or 2015 hygiene compensation probably ever. So, you know, to have these fees stuck at a rate that is below what we actually pay the person to do it, and you know, that doesn't even include all the other overhead of the office. That's just the compensation of the hygienist. So I mean, I think Garth's right. That's one that you know, it needs to not only be increased to the level of the pediatric prophy, but it needs to be increased even more than that. If you look at what a regular fee for service fee is for that hygiene, that prophylaxis, it's quite a bit higher. So something to look at.
Absolutely. Make sure to include those codes on your email, Dr. Bobrowski. And
Okay.
like I said, we will look into each one of them. And, you know, I want you all to know that we at the department understand and hear everything you all are saying, everything that a lot of our providers are saying. We understand that, and we are doing our best to try to make sure that we assist you all in any way we can possible, to make you know, to help alleviate some of those issues. You know, we have to work within our budgetary limits. We have to work within the statute. We have to make sure that we can justify any and every increase we get, because we are questioned on every single increase that we give. Every time we increase a code, we increase a rate. We're questioned on it. We have to show why we did that, how we did it, where we compare with everybody else, and why we decided to increase that one and not something else. So, but we are working on that, and it will be good for you all to send that, Dr. Bobrowski. We can get started with that and let you all know what we come back with.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. We're another question we're getting quite a few on is, and I saw that Dr. Steve Robinson got on, the new interim executive director. And I know we had a call earlier this morning, and we're talking about the KDA office is just getting a lot of phone calls on, well, like on what we just talked about, but then also on the status of Anthem patients, Passport patients, you know, DentaQuest, and if someone from the state can, or if someone from those MCO organizations can comment to help us clarify what's going on. Dr. Robertson, you want to just comment just briefly on the phone calls that the KDA office is getting, and I'll let you have the floor a few minutes here.
Well, there have been a lot of concerns. Well, first, hello, everyone. There's been a lot of concerns expressed about some of the issues with Anthem and DentaQuest, and then now, seeing the Passport's going to come under the same umbrella. I think a lot of people are really concerned. I don't know. I'm sorry that I was late. I just had another meeting wrap up, and I don't know what you guys have discussed, but one of the things we talked about earlier was the expansion population timing out and the way that all that was going to be handled. And as of yesterday, I am a practicing dentist. And yesterday in my office, we had 2 DentaQuest patients come in that had an active card. And when we went online, it said they were covered. And because we were kind of anticipating an issue, when we called to verify, we were told that they were not covered because they were part of the expansion population. And there was a great synopsis this morning in the Lexington Herald Leader of the way that the process is supposed to work, with the notifications from the state 60 to 90 days beforehand, and that they will be covered through the end of the month in which their renewal comes up. So if they were due in May, they'll be covered to the 31st of this month. But according to DentaQuest yesterday, both of these people had termed because they were part of the expansion population. So I do think that there's still some pains there, some growing pains that we're going to have to figure things out. And, there do seem to be a lot of questions about the way some things are being handled, specifically through DentaQuest. Unfortunately, we tend to refer most of that to Garth for the TAC. And that's why he brought that up in his reports. But if anyone else has any specific questions.
Hi, sure. So this is Christina Medina with DentaQuest, and I appreciate you kind of, speaking up and bringing this to our attention. I mean, I think it goes without saying that historically, over the course of these TACs, we really have not had many issues. In fact, if, kind of looking back at past agendas and new business conversations, I mean, usually, there's really not much concern. Our messaging to providers has consistently been that we will definitely honor those, 90-day notifications in the event that there are any benefit changes. So, as far as it relates to the expansion, those members should not be termed. They're all active in the system with the appropriate coverage. And so I don't know about anyone else, but this is kind of the first time that anyone has really mentioned it to our leadership. And so we will most definitely, if you have, some concrete examples, if you could please, send that over to us, we'd be more than happy to, look into it and try to understand if maybe there was a customer service rep or something that gave some misinformation. We can do some targeted education. But, for the most part, we've been very much engaged and in communication with the provider offices and have, explained to them that, most definitely if they are active, first of all, we always honor coverage on the Kentucky MMIS. So if they're showing active on the Kentucky MMIS, whether it's part of expansion or any other population, that's the source of truth, and that is our Bible and what we go off of for any type of claims payment or prior auths and things of that nature. And then secondly, as it relates to kind of some of the confusion, I think it was across the board, with the expansion and the vetoes and all of that, we will most definitely ensure that not just providers, but even members are notified of any benefit changes with advance, because you just can't change, benefits like that on a member either. So any courses treatment that's currently in process, we are definitely paying those, and we are more than happy to provide any type of reports, to anyone as it relates to, payment on those expanded services, between that, that since the go live date up until now. In fact, I do believe those are also going to the state on a regular cadence, as everything was rolled out. Yeah.
Correct.
Please, like I said, if there's anything you can share with us, we'd be more than happy to look into it further.
So is your recommendation that the dentist should print the coverage screen? Because like you said, if they're showing that they are, because I know that they're supposed to verify on a daily basis that people are still in the system. But are you all recommending that they need that to be printed so that they can provide that with claims?
No.
No. I'm just saying that we always go off of the Kentucky MMIS system as far as, what the source of truth is. And if they were showing eligible on that date, then absolutely that's the coverage that's being honored. So, if there is a situation where there is a member present in the office and there is a discrepancy, in the event of a discrepancy, yes, I would take that screenshot. I mean, that's not very common, but does it happen? Sometimes with timing and all of that, there could be a possibility. Just, as that data flows through all the different platforms and systems, between the state, health plan partners, DentaQuest, the portals and all of that. So if in the event of a discrepancy, I do feel like, yes, that would be best practice, would be to take a screenshot of that MMIS, and we would always honor it. Most definitely. But no, that doesn't have to be like on the regular cadence, day to day in the office. Yeah.
Are there discussions among the MCOs, or is everyone just in line with the published management of the expansion population, not the codes, the expansion population, who technically termed yesterday on May the 11th? So is everyone in line with the 60, 90 days, re-enrollment, move to connect, whatever? I mean, all the MCOs are on board with this, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, because the only reason I ask that is that I know, I'm not saying that the information's not out there, but we feel like there's probably a lot of dentists that really aren't even aware that this is going on. So we're thinking that we're going to send out a constant contact on Monday, kind of informing everyone, of what it's going to be handled so that they're aware. And I just wanted to make sure that there weren't any wild cards we didn't know about.
Well, and Dr. Robertson, this is Jean from Anthem Medicaid. There is like a whole presentation and quite a few meetings that the states have been having around redetermination and how it was going to be, I guess, unfolded over the next year. I don't know if you've been connected into any of those meetings or have seen kind of the overview. If that has not gotten your way, we'd be glad to try to send some of that information. But all the MCOs have been tied to DMS around the redeterminations and how this is going to be unfolding.
It's not, believe me, this is in no way an accusation, and I do know exactly what you're talking about, and everything.
Okay.
We just question how much the providers, not to step on any toes, but how much they know, how much they've read, how much they've viewed or attended those meetings. And I guess we're just going to make one attempt to lay it out as plain as we can.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great idea. I know DMS has really tried very hard to do a lot of communication, and so has the MCOs. That may not necessarily be something that some of the dentists have been, tied to or haven't really seen that. So coming from the KDA would be wonderful. Thanks.
Yeah, because I think there's something actually on the KMS website that we're going to try to link to.
Yes,
so,
yes.
We don't have any complaints with how they've done it. We just want to make sure that people understand.
I agree with you. Yeah, it's a huge undertaking for the state and for everyone involved. So, but anytime that you have any issues or concerns with DentaQuest, I kind of want to echo what Christy was saying. We just have not received any complaints. They usually come my way. So I've not seen any complaints from providers or anything through, especially we never get state complaints. So if there's any issues or concerns, please let us know so that we can address those on an individual basis. We'd be glad to take care of that.
Well, and I think the reason that I talked to Garth about, we wanted to be sure and bring this up today, is that technically this whole issue started yesterday. So I think that, it hasn't been an issue because,
Yeah.
yesterday was the
There's been a
drop.
change. Yeah, there's been a change.
And we
Yes.
wanted to talk about it was just to make sure that everybody understood and kind of knew what was going on so that if there were calls or if there were questions, you knew what they were calling about.
And Miss Jean, if you and Christy wouldn't mind to send us your contact information or put it in the chat or something, or get it to me and I'll get it to the other TAC members in the KDA office. And that way, when folks call us or the KDA office, we'll have a reference point to get back with you all.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Garth, if I could, go ahead, Stuart.
Well, I was just gonna say, I just put in the chat the website dedicated to public health, to the emergency unwinding for everybody, which is a great resource. It's
Yeah,
Connect's
thank you,
website.
Stuart. Yeah, thank you, Stuart. That is a good website.
Garth, if I may,
Go ahead.
I think now might be a good point. I appreciate hearing from.
And I can email that website out to you guys as well.
Okay. Go ahead, Dr. Joe.
Thank you. I appreciate hearing from both Anthem and DentaQuest and their limited amount of complaints. And I think that might fall on our shoulders, both as a TAC and as and practitioners for not bringing to the front the concerns that we do have and that we certainly have. I know we have them in my practice. And I get calls constantly predominantly about these plans and about issues with them. I think the thing to look at more than anything is how quickly providers are no longer seeing these plans, specifically Anthem, and now as the change for DentaQuest and they're taking over for Passport Molina. The lack of providers in those on a daily basis. I have a very difficult time finding dentists for patients who are coming into my office. Now, granted, I get to see 100 to 120 patients a day, the 3/4 of which are in the Medicaid population. So I get to see these patients daily. And when they are finding out their dentist is no longer taking Anthem, no longer taking Passport because of issues that they are having either with Anthem or Passport or with DentaQuest themselves, we get handed the ball and say, well, find me somebody who will see me. So we're creating a significant access to care in those points. When we have those patients, I struggle to find people. This started with the oral surgery, finding an oral surgeon that would accept Anthem for us, whether they're on the rolls or not, whether they would accept Anthem for us. Now, my practices go from Somerset to Hazard, with Corbin in between, and we could not find anybody outside of the university setting that would accept an Anthem patient for oral surgery. That's a problem. And I apologize for not making it clear that there are problems. And clearly the oral surgeons have problems and have had problems because they're not accepting those plans. We already have an access to care issue. We already don't have enough oral surgeons. If the surgeons that we have will not accept a plan, that exacerbates the issue. Same thing in our practice, and maybe it's our fault for continuing to see these patients. As a general practice goal and principle, we accept all insurances and treat all of the patients that come into our door, but that's not without issue. And I apologize that I have not made complaints. I have was given to me today from my office staff emails that stretch 7 unresponded emails to one claim question to a representative. I have claims that have gone 9 months without resolution. That's not acceptable, nor do I think is it legal by the standards of which that the MCOs are held to and by what Kentucky Medicaid wants to provide for their patients and providers. I have unresolved claims on patients that clearly meet the orthodontic criteria. Mind you, the orthodontic criteria that we help to write. So we have a pretty good idea of what is and what isn't a criteria and what would or would not be approved under other MCOs being denied on appeal, or the appeal never responded to. That's just unacceptable. And I apologize that I have allowed that to continue to go and not brought those to you all individually. And I think many members on this TAC also have not brought the issues to you all from our own individual practice, because we're inundated with all the other practices that do have issue and are frankly dropping the plans. First Anthem, and now we're beginning to see Passport dropped or no longer used because of the issues primarily with the management of the plans, and how the response from the plan itself when called and talking to people for even to answer a simple question, getting no response. I would love to hear any other TAC member to give their experience and whether they have also seen in their regions the dropping of coverage, or the dropping of folks with both Anthem and Passport plans.
This is Garth. I know we're having in our area some fewer dentists that are taking Anthem and Passport now with that changes. Had a young lady here yesterday who actually came in she was a transport provider for one of our traumatic brain injury patients. And she said, well, she said, she had Anthem, and she said, I can't get in anywhere. So I don't know all the details. It's just the one comment that she made. And in the chat room there just a few minutes ago, Miss Lou Ann Carnell is with the University of Louisville Dental School, and she's the insurance and billing manager. And she needs some help with DentaQuest and Passport. So if Miss Christie or Miss Jean, if one or both of you all could reach out to Lou Ann with her billing problems at University of Louisville, we'd appreciate if you all would help her out there.
Yeah, Dr. Pavelski, that would have to be DentaQuest and Passport, since I'm with the Anthem. And Dr. Petrie, if you could, I'd put my email in the chat. I would love for you to email out what type of issues or concerns that you're having, because I just need the examples, claims that you feel haven't been paid, those types of things. And then Christy and I can go through all those. It's very helpful if we get the information and the examples so that we can definitely, resolve. And that's usually what I do all day long, as Jeremy knows, because he's on the call too, Jeremy Randall. That's what I do all day, is resolve claims concerns for providers.
Well, I appreciate that, and I certainly will send those. I think
I appreciate that. Mm-hmm.
I think we've been extremely patient in our practice, and having 7 straight emails ignored on a claim is a challenge. And I think there are other practices that are just simply not accepting your plan anymore, or new patients for your plan because of these issues.
Yeah, we just need to get some examples, and I appreciate it that you brought it up today. And if you send them to me, then we can look at them, and if there's others that are having those issues, we can work on a resolution for that. Thank you for bringing that up today. And I would have to kind of default to Passport and DentaQuest on the U of L Dental School.
Yeah, and I went ahead and and I put our information in the chat, so we can definitely connect. I put our email and cell phone numbers on there, so we can go ahead and just touch base on any issues that you guys might be having in those examples, so we can get that all squared away.
Let me write down.
Sorry. This is
I'm
Kim
sorry,
from Passport. I put my information in the chat as well to contact Passport Bubbleina for any issues.
I'm just making a
I
note
will,
of that.
this is Erin, with the department. I will also send you guys a link to the provider complaint form that you can also fill out and submit to the department for issues that you're having if you're not getting, responses from the MCOs. There's also that avenue as well.
Yeah, thank you. That would be, that's very helpful too. Thanks for bringing that up. I'm not sure they have that. I know I'm used to seeing it from the other providers, but I'm not sure I've seen it from the dental community.
All right. Well, thank you.
We have,
Go ahead.
we have
Joe.
not, I'm just going to say, we have not used that frankly, because we want to work with the MCOs, and our practice has, since the inception of the program, only going back to, the pitfalls of Kentucky Spirit, which we stuck with even, have we had such difficulty as we have had over the last year, in dealing with what we're having now. So I'll certainly reach out and appreciate your all's help in resolving these issues that hopefully will go beyond us and the practitioners that I'm trying to send for oral surgery and for general dental needs will also see changes that will help them to come back on board with the program. Otherwise, I'm fearful that much like I've lost nearly every provider that I can refer to for Anthem, I'm going to do the same for Passport, at least in our regions.
All right. Any other questions from TAC members?
Garth, John Gray,
Yes.
can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm one of those people that Joe can't refer to. And if Passport or Anthem or any of the others want to call our Mount Sterling office, and talk to Vicky, we'll be glad to explain why it just won't work. So we've not complained to them about it because we're not seeing the patients.
Okay. So if you all would reach out to Dr. Gray's Mount Sterling office, that can continue the conversation. I think at least we're talking and trying to work out some things here.
Absolutely. We'll definitely reach out and, kind of get some insight into some of those challenges so that we can better partner in the future.
I was had a little grandson conversation the other day with my 8-year-old grandson, and I was just stressing to him to learn how to communicate. He knows what that word means. He's been around me long enough that, I said, you just got to learn, just don't be afraid to ask. Sometimes, and I remember even in college, one of our instructors said, if you've got a question, raise your hand, because he said in this class, there's probably 10 other people that have got the same question, but they're too scared to raise their hand. So just, if we got questions of each other, let's communicate, or questions or concerns. And then I'm going on down the agenda that we had some United Healthcare criteria for prior authorizations. Dr. Adam Rich, any comments, or is that all worked out? Or
hey, Dr. Bobrovsky, this is Adam Rich with United Healthcare. I did speak with Dr. Petrie last week, but I think the question was around how continuation of care, transition of care from one MCO to another would happen, especially as it related to ortho. And because if members are transferring plans or whatever may be happening, and to speak to it from our perspective, the only thing we would be looking for specifically for an ortho claim would be when you submit the claim, the EOB and that letter of medical necessity. So we could determine what the remaining balance on the case would be and get that to the provider. And then everything else would be pretty much the same as they were doing before. But so if there's any other questions around that, I can certainly address them. But that was my understanding of what that agenda item entailed. So yeah, please feel free to elaborate, or if I can elaborate, just let me know.
No,
Dr. Joe?
that does clarify that we had a great conversation that helped to understand how that would follow through. And I also I appreciate the back and forth with that, Dr. Rich, and we appreciate your all's efforts in also how you're handling the fee structure and adjusting how bringing that closer online to what we're used to and what the state has outlined. And frankly, appreciate your fee for orthodontics being while still a challenge for us to make margins, still being at a higher rate than what we're receiving from other MCOs, and appreciate the work that you are doing to help with to gain providers from that respect, because I think that will help.
Thank you. And just say this to you and anyone else. Anytime anytime you have any questions or need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. That's what I'm here for. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rich, Dr. Joe. I just wanted to bring up, I know a while ago, Justin had made a comment of that, a lot of times they have to look and compare to the states around us to, see what other states are doing and developing strategies, policy, fees. But I just put this in here. I just got this here first part of the month. This is from House Bill 1001 state budget bill. This is from Indiana. But the bill was passed, which funds Medicaid's request for $12.9 million state share to be used for a dental investment. I like that word. With a total dental expenditure of $47.3 million for the next biennial budget. Indiana Medicaid intends to review reimbursement rates every 4 years, so this will eliminate long lapses of having fee increases. House Bill 1001 also included funds for Indiana Medicaid to provide inflation rate increases for the years when rates are not reviewed. So, in terms of policy, I would recommend to the state to add that language into what you do. And I know you have to base things off of what the legislature funding allows you to do, but it's kind of one of those things in the future. I know in January we'll start the long session for the legislature, and that's one of those things that folks, we've got to move Kentucky oral health out of 49th. That's awful. We got to do what we can to get providers taking care of people. And I've used this term before. We got to build some smiles. And each one of us on this TAC have got various aspects of the dental arena covered, from oral surgery to pedo to adults to everything. But I feel like we've got a very well-versed TAC covering a lot of territory across the state in terms of knowledge and how to get these folks treated. Is there any other new business to come before us?
Justin
Hey,
Derringer.
Go ahead. Justin's had his hand up. Go ahead.
Oh, well, I just wanted to state that was a excellent comment by Dr. And I wanted to make sure that all of you all are active with your legislators. As you can read that House bill, and I'm very familiar with that bill, was in the state budget bill. it was a part of an enacted budget. And so that meant that the legislator gave an additional amount of funding to the Indiana Department for Medicaid Services, specifically for dental, you know, to be invested in dental care. And so that is always welcome with us here in the department. You know, we don't have any part of that, or do we have any part of the legislation? However, I would encourage everyone to be very active in this process, you know, especially based on the reaction from legislators on some of the small increases that we tried to give on the 2023 fee schedule. So any additional amount of money we could get for the dental community would be wonderful, and that starts with everyone's legislatures.
Hey, Dr. Bobrowski, this is Ronnie Coleman. Can I just mention something?
Yes, go ahead, Ronnie.
So I'm Ronnie Coleman with Benevis. We support Ruby Dental in Kentucky. I was extremely involved in Indiana, going back to last summer. And I would just note that, yes, in fact, the legislature did pass the budget, and they did obviously have to pass the numbers that were mentioned by Dr. Bobrowski, but those numbers were recommended by the department. The chairman of the Senate Appropriations Committee said many times he doesn't want to be in the business of setting reimbursement rates. So they took the recommendation to some extent of the department, and that's what got us to where we are now. It wasn't the legislature. We wanted the legislature to do even more. We wanted the legislature to consider tagging us to like the ADA survey of rates. But luckily, the Medicaid director specifically set up a rate review matrix that goes every 4 years. She recommended every year indexing of rates, which we've been hammering her on. And she recommended this investment because it's been a long time. The other thing that's going to happen in Indiana, and this goes to a point that you guys were talking about earlier, determining if, you know, the adult rates might be lower than the child rates and so on. My experience in a bunch of other states is that happens a fair amount, obviously, that the child rates might be higher than the adult rates. And I think it's a lot because, you know, the adult program is kind of an optional program. But in Indiana, they had a situation where the adult rates were 30% higher than the child rates for physician services and dental services. And they've had to equalize those rates. CMS forced them to do it. So I'm not sure if that was because the policy had not changed, or if because they allowed an optional program to be reimbursed higher than the mandatory program. So if you're looking at wanting to increase pro fees, for instance, for adults, and you leave kids behind, that could be a problem. And I just want to put in a pitch. We're primarily child providers at Ruby, but we've seen plenty of adults. And the child providers are just as challenged as the adult providers, especially when it's been years and years and years since substantial increases have been put forth by Kentucky Medicaid. So I just urge the department to be proactive about what you think we want with the legislators, because they're gonna listen to you, at least initially, and then we can go from there. Obviously, we have champions in the legislature that want to help us, but it would be really helpful if you guys proceeded to talk to them, you know, this summer as you're developing your budget recommendations for next year. And this is the last point I'll make, Dr. Bobrowski. I found when I talk to the higher ups in Kentucky Medicaid that they often raise the point that they'd like the Medicaid, or actually all of the dentists, to submit to a provider tax in order for them to draw down more money. That's just not going to happen. I mean, we know that the vast majority of dentists don't take Medicaid. And even for those that do, I mean, they're actually, it's almost like charity work, as you've heard from the members of the TAC. So I just don't think that should be required. I think we need to get off of that argument. And I think you guys need to be proactive. It's been 20 years since there's been a wholesale rate increase. We know that you have a significant budget surplus. I mean, this is the time. So anyway, I'll leave it at that, Dr. Bobrowski.
All right. Thank you, Ronnie, and appreciate those words. But as you can see with most any project we get into, whether it be our businesses or at our school functions, fixing the bleachers at the ball court or whatever. It takes a community of workers to get these things done, and it also affects us and our businesses and us to be able to provide care, for folks in our communities. We've just got to rebuild this network. But is there any other new business to come before us today? Going on down to our general discussion, I just want to briefly bring up the public health coordinators. And we don't have to spend a lot of time on it today, but I was kind of interested in looking at how does the billing work. I know I've talked a little bit with the commissioner on this, and are the kind of the question, how does the billing work? Are the folks that are certified public health coordinators, are they considered independent contractors, or does the like say a dental office, does the billing come from the dental office and then the dental office is reimbursed for that time? So those are some questions. If somebody from the state could get back with me or get me some more information. I've got on that website some, but I've still got questions on that. So if somebody could help us with that, get us some more information, we can help do what we can with that.
Dr. Bobrowski?
Yes, Stuart.
Stuart with WellCare. If I just chime in real quick here, the commissioners shared, I saw it, I think it was last week, you're talking about the community health workers, I believe.
Yeah.
They'll be employed by providers, and MCOs will pay providers, and the commissioner actually, or somebody else, maybe it was a deputy, shared, I think there are 3 codes that would be billed, and it's based on, I think, how many members are being helped by the worker. But I don't mean to be stepping out beyond my lane, but you would be hiring, providers would be hiring the community health workers. It would be covered services, and there are the 3 codes that'll be billed. And I think they said 7/1/23 is the go live date.
Okay.
I hope I didn't go out of my lane.
I'm just making a couple notes here real quick. And so you said that the provider office would be paid. Is that right?
Yeah, and that's what's in the actual legislation.
Okay.
The regs are going to be coming later, I believe, but the legislation is that actual providers would hire the community health workers, and they'll be billable covered Medicaid services, and so the MCOs will be paying providers for those services.
Hey, Stuart.
Yes.
Are those CPT codes?
Yes, they are.
That's what I thought. You might want to investigate that, because that would probably be a problem, since dentists aren't credentialed on the medical side to submit CPT codes.
That's a good point.
Yeah, Garth. Yeah, that was going to be my question also, because that came up in discussion earlier today. Has there been any discussion about how you see this working in a dental setting? Because the codes that are available are medical codes. There may not be anybody on this meeting that can answer that today.
I can make that.
Hi, this is Danita from BMS, and Angie Parker is going to be taking over. She's going to be handling the community health workers, and that is correct that it is going to be the CPT codes. She is out on vacation this week. I will take this back to her and let her know that the TAC would like some additional information and have her follow up with you all.
And this is Justin Derringer. I had my hand up, but I sometimes that's hard to see. I'm gonna see if I can. I might have had it down. I don't know. Sometimes I try to raise it and it lowers, and sometimes I lower it and it raises. So anyway, You're correct. There are the administrative regulation for community health workers and the we have a PowerPoint about community health workers. We have FAQs about community health workers. Those are all coming up very soon. We'll have those out to all provider types. Every provider type is going to kind of get their own letter explaining things to them a little more clear. But Mr. Owens was right. That is, a dentist will be able to hire community health workers and be able to bill for those. They will be CPT codes, and we are working on adding those CPT codes to the dental fee schedule and making sure that our system can process those and figure out how to bill for those. And there will be a billing document just like there is now that will go through and go over how those will be billed. I think the CPT 98960 is for one patient. That rate was actually just increased to $22.53 per 30-minute increment. And then CPT 98961 is 2 to 4 patients. And I think that rate is now $10.88 per patient per 30-minute increment. CPT 98962 is 5 to 8 patients, and that's $8.03 per patient per 30-minute increment. It's limited to 2 units per week per member and no more than 104 units per calendar year per member.
When you say per member, do you mean per Medicaid member?
That is correct. Per member. Yeah, not per provider, but per individual. Okay. So I don't know. Let's see. I can't really share a lot of the actual documentation that we have ready because it hasn't, anything that we send out for to view has to go through multiple layers of approval. So that it's kind of in its last stages of approval, but we'll be posting all that soon and you all will get links to that. And so what we've tried to do, or what I've tried to do, is just kind of combine the taking all the requirements from the administrative regulation that's to be filed within the next month or so, the statute, the billing requirements, and then some of the questions that we've received, and kind of compiled all that into one area so that you all can look through there. And then if you have any questions, just feel free to reach out to me or Angie Parker, either one. I think we're both working on the same project. And so we'll be sure to be happy to answer any questions about community health workers that you might have.
Justin, if you all could, whenever y'all post that onto the website, if you could let us know. Now, this is going to sound awful, but historically, there's been so few changes that I did not check the website very often. Now with all these changes going on here, this last year or so, I mean, I check it a lot more frequently, and just for me to notice that you had a update from April 13th to May the 5th. That's doing pretty good for me to check that often. So, but I think a lot of dentists like that just don't or haven't taken the time to look at that website and gather information. But because there hasn't been a whole lot of changes in dental, so I think Dr. Robertson, that might be a thing to. If you send out a constant contact here Monday, that we may want to add just that website as a point of reference for Medicaid, or if your constant contact page is already full, maybe we could do it next week. But just I think those communications to our KDA members are critical. All right. Thank you for that report on the community health workers there. As far as I can detect, I don't think that we've got any MAC recommendations to make. I think most of this can be handled. I'll work on my emails to you all and hopefully get everything up there by Monday. So we can start working on codes and those typos and stuff like that. I do plan to be our representative at the next MAC meeting, which is at the end of this month, on May the 25th at 10 o'clock Eastern time. Are there any other, are there anything we need to bring before the MAC? So is there any other discussion, general discussion that I've left off?
Yeah,
Right.
Garth, the only thing that I want to add is to see if there's any objection from anyone with the state or with the MCOs that we can, as long as we get that written documentation to them, that we can get those reports that we've requested back well before our next meeting, so we'll have a time to review those. Sooner the better, but certainly before our next meeting.
Oh, and we'll work on that. And I owe everybody an apology because I think I had some upgrades on my computer, and when I send out the agenda, usually you just got to hit a couple keys and it puts it into the proper document form that everybody can open it. But boy, this time I was just a nightmare getting everybody the proper, I guess, wording that it would even open the attached file. So I think I got it worked out there. Now it's a little different route, but I figured the route out. So we'll hopefully next time we send out an agenda, it won't be so cumbersome. But our next TAC meeting is August the 11th, Friday from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern time. And that's all I have.
Joe, I did want to let you know that when the department gets data requests, we usually have a 90-day turnaround. So if it would be right about your all's meeting time if I got them today. We try to get them out faster than that, but we do allow it for 90 days for the data to be gathered, collected, and reviewed. But we could definitely, most certainly, try to get that to you as quickly as possible once they're received.
I appreciate that. We keep talking about it in our meetings and amongst ourselves between our meetings, and need to have the formal written to you all so that we can get that done. Because the 5 things that we came up with were a review of minutes going over a year past where we have talked about requesting data and just haven't formally done it well enough to get that data. So the 90 days is completely understandable, but we'll try to get that to you as quickly as possible. Thank you.
You're welcome. Absolutely.
Well, at this time, we'll need a motion to adjourn.
Garth, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Need a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. A great meeting. I appreciate everyone's comments and participation. So y'all have a good weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Have a great
Thanks, Garth.
weekend.
Thank you, Dr. Brodsky.
Thank you.